right, Shabbat Shalom again, wonderful brothers and sisters. Let's give the Most High a round of applause. Let's give the Most High a round of applause. All praise to the Most High for giving us his all-begotten Son, Yeshua. He's worthy to be praised. We have to thank him for blessing us with this beautiful Shabbat day. A beautiful day indeed. We're going to have a great lesson today by the Health Committee. Officer Sean and Officer Kenny will be bringing off a PowerPoint today. And the reason why the Health Committee brings forth these things, some might say maybe these things are not important. These things are highly important. 3 things that need to be balanced: your physical, your mental, and your spiritual. These things need to be in balance. They are tied to one another for orders to operate in a proper manner. But before they come up, I just want to read, let's go to 1 Corinthians, all right? 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. Yeah.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of the Most High, and that the Spirit of the Most High dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of the Most High, him shall the Most High destroy. For the temple of the Most High is holy, which temple ye are.
So Paul said that we are the temple now. The Spirit dwells in us. We are the temple now. Let's look back at the temple when it was made by hands, right? Did we bring in any unclean animals in the temple? Did we sacrifice pigs in the temple? Did we bring any unclean thing inside the temple? The temple was always pure, always holy. Anything that was brought forth was make sure that it was a holy thing that was brought forth in the temple. Whether it be the linen, whether it be the sacrifice, everything in the temple was holy. So now that we are the living temple now, we have to make sure that we're not putting any unclean things within the temple, so the Spirit can operate properly. The Spirit could dwell in us. So this is what the brothers are bringing forth today, so for everybody to understand how we could cleanse our physical, so we could live in the spiritual and mental. Con? All right. So without further ado, Brother Sean. Brother and Officer Sean.
Test. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Man, you know, first of all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High, Haya B'Hashem Yeshar Rawchaa Kadash. Right? And I also want to say that the Active Health Committee members, just want to give those guys a round of applause as well. That's Sister Danielle. We have Sister Valerie, Sister Diane, Sister Naomi, myself, Brother Kenny, and our newest member, Brother Michelangelo. So none of this can be possible without all the work that these individuals have put in. Now, one of the things we're going to be going into today, a lot of times we've adopted the diet of our captors. Let me start over. I was actually going to go into 1 Corinthians 3 and 16, but Deacon Shamal opened up with that, so I have to figure out a different opening. All right, but one of the main things we want to think about is that our diet has been taught to us. And when we were separated from our power, when we didn't know who we were, when we lost our identity, we took on the identity and the eating habits of the nation that was over us. So now that we're starting to come back into our own, we're starting to understand the things that we should be eating and should not be eating, right? But one of the things that we need to focus on is that some of the things are clear cut. It's easy to say, okay, that split at the hoof, eat the cut, right? That has scales and fin, right? Some of those things are easy to pick out, but a lot of times there's a lot of foods that are hidden inside the things that we eat that aren't so clear cut. So we have to delve a little bit deeper into those things so we can understand how to truly keep our body holy and keep it cleansed. Huh? All right, so this is titled The Creeping Thing, What Are We Eating? Let's go to Daniel 7 and 25. It's not on the slide, but let's open up with that. And see, when you're a people of law, right, you run the risk of taking or accepting things on face value because you think people are dealing truthfully with you, right? But you have to understand that there's a lot of deceivers out there. So we must take everything and try every word to see the truth that's in it and not just accept things on face value. Go to Daniel 7 and 25.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws.
Right? It says it should wear out the saints of the Most High. Right? If you look at what's going on in our society today, we getting wore out. Right? Physically, mentally, and in some cases spiritually. Right? So we have to be able to charge our bodies and give us that understanding, that push that we need. Right? Come on.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times in the dividing of time.
So we're in that time right now, but we must persevere. And we have to have that knowledge because we're destroyed for the lack of it, right? So dealing with these other nations, we have to be able to understand that the language that they're using is not the same language that we're using, right? To give you an example, if you hear of anything that's natural, you're automatically going to assume it comes from the earth. It's nature, right? But that's not the case, right? When you talk about natural flavors versus artificial flavors, we're going to get this from the source of the FDA, straight from their website, right? And this is Title 21, Food and Drugs, Chapter 1, Food and Drug Administration. And it goes into the food for human consumption and the food labeling, right? Natural flavors, right? Go into that.
Natural flavors versus artificial flavors. The term natural flavor or natural flavoring means the essential oil, oleoresin, essence, or extractive, protein hydrolysate, distillate, or any product of roasting, heating, or enzymolus, which contains the flavoring constituents derived from a spice, fruit or fruit juice, vegetable or vegetable juice, edible yeast, bark, herb, bark, bud, root, leaf, or similar plant material, meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, dairy products, or fermentation products thereof, whose significant function in food is flavoring rather than nutritional. Natural flavors include the natural essence or extractives obtained from plants listed in 182.10.
Right. You don't have to go into all of that, but it points out that natural flavors include the natural essence or extractives obtained from plants, right? And its significant function in food is flavoring rather than nutritional. So what happens is when you isolate, what they do is they take out a particular flavor, the chemical that's responsible for that particular flavor in the food, and they now isolate it, and now it's a natural flavoring they can add to some other food without actually putting the particular food inside that as an ingredient. To give you an example of what that is, benzaldehyde is a chemical naturally found in almonds. That's what gives your almonds the almond taste, right? So what happens is they found a way to synthesize that in the lab. Now, if you eat regular almonds, you're not going to suffer anything catastrophic to your health. But this synthesized benzaldehyde that they did inside the lab, it causes dizziness. It causes all types of ailments to your body, right? And that's because they separate it from its natural state. So now we're going to go into what an artificial flavor is, because artificial flavors differ from natural flavors. Natural flavor is basically something that pre-exists in any type of juice or oil from fruit, anything of something that's actually exists. They extract it and they have natural flavoring from that. All right. Go ahead.
The term artificial flavor or artificial flavoring means any substance, the function of which is to impart flavor, which is not derived from a spice, fruit juice, vegetable juice, edible yeast, herb, bark, bud, root, leaf, or similar plant material, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, dairy products, or fermentation products thereof.
Okay, so that's anything. Artificial flavor is anything that's not derived from something real. It's completely made inside the lab. So anytime you look on the packaging and you see something that says natural flavoring, you have to understand that it's not necessarily coming naturally from nature. It's something that they isolated, and now, because they're not really regulated, they can put down on the package that that's a natural flavor, right? Even though it mimics the property of something natural, but it itself is not natural, all right? And to give you an example of that as well, artificial flavor, Borneal is an artificial flavor that can cause GI irritation, seizures, confusion, and dizziness, right? But the natural form of Borneal occurs naturally in herbs like thyme and cinnamon, right? And they actually have benefits to your body. It's only when they start to manipulate or tamper with the flavors that they start to cause a lot of different issues, right? Another example of that is carvacol, which is another artificial flavor. It leads to respiratory and circulatory depression, as well as cardiac failure. Carvacol, it may not be recognized by someone saying, have you had some carvacol today? But if you understand what oregano is, how many people heard of oregano? Right? Carvacol is one of the chemicals in oregano, right? And one of the benefits that it does, it offers a wide range of health benefits, including protective effects for the liver, antioxidant, activity against harmful organisms, and more, right? So these are just examples as how artificial flavors are differing from natural flavors. And another thing I wanted to touch on, when we're reading these packages, they're very deceptive, right? Very deceptive. And I'll give you an example of that. You'll go to your local supermarket and you'll see something that says no preservatives, right? But anything that's commercially produced have to have preservatives because of the shelf life, right? So anything that's produced naturally is going to decay over time. Something that's produced for the consumption, for long-term consumption, is going to have some type of preservatives, right? Other ways they say on labelings, you have all natural, multi-grain, no sugar added, right? Sugar-free, zero trans fat, free range, light, gluten-free, made with real fruit juice. But when you turn over those bottles, they say about 5% juice is inside of it, right? So there's a disconnect between the food industry and the labeling industry. They're actually two separate entities, right? So the people who make the labels are not regulated the same way as the people who make your food. So that's important to know as well.
It's Sean. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, like, you kind of got to take it personal. You really have to take it personal when you see, because they're really like poking fun at you in a certain way, because like if you go buy honey, it says all natural honey. And my first thought is like, duh, of course it's all natural, it's honey. But they're telling you that there's a reason why they're not putting organic on the honey and they're putting natural instead. If they're telling you that is natural honey, they're just telling you that they use bees to make that honey. They're not telling you that the flowers or whatever plants that those bees pollinated were genetically modified, which is why it doesn't get the organic label a lot of times. So it's technicalities, and they're just playing with your mind.
Wow. Oh, let me see this clip right here. So there are 9 certified color additives approved by the FDA for use in food. Right? You have to understand that food has become less about food and more about food product. We don't have food anymore, we have food products. We don't have cheese anymore, we have cheese products. Right? So it's become a point where they're marketing certain things to you, and they use colors and they use different cues, visible cues, so that you can jump on it, right? And not really read what's going on inside of these. But blue number 1, right? Blue number 2, green number 3, orange B, citrus red number 2, red number 3, red number 40, yellow number 5, and yellow number 6. The thing that all of these have in common, these are all coal tars. They're all derived from coal tar. And coal tar is a thick black liquid produced by the distillation of bituminous coal. Right? It contains benzene, naphthalene, phenols, aniline, and many other organic chemicals. And all of these food additives, food colorings, they all contain lead and arsenic. Blue 2, yellow 5, and yellow 6 contain mercury as well. So you get a little bit of extra with those, right? So when you look at all the foods that we eat, these vibrant colors, these are not naturally occurring things in nature. They're there to entice you, to get you to want to eat them because they're pleasant to the eyes, right? It goes right back to that fruit, right? It said, come on, you know, that's pleasant. It's not going to do you any harm, right?
And Sean, this is really just touching on, again, what I was saying about them playing tricks on your mind, because really it's linking back to psychology. And like I remember for myself, when I first started paying attention to my health and my diet, one of the things that I loved drinking as a kid was orange soda. And one day I think it was I forget the brand, but it was a can. I cracked it open, and something just made me just stop and just look at it, because I know what color orange juice is. It's not orange, it's yellow. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, why is this orange? Why is the liquid orange? But subconsciously, that causes people to gravitate to it. You're not questioning the ingredients. You look at the back, and the only thing that you recognize, that you think you recognize, is citric acid. But that citric acid, a lot of times, has nothing to do with that orange. So it's all psychology. It's like, I remember Dave Chappelle. I was listening to him recently. He said, he was talking about that black people don't know what juice is. He's like, what is juice? I want some apple drink. It's green. And this is like the psychology that they play on this, and they get us conditioned to associate these colors with food so that we continue with their as their marketing victims.
Now, all of these different food additives, they're all made in the lab with chemicals derived from petroleum. All right. Does anyone know what petroleum is? Because we've been using it for a while now to slather it on ourselves and on our babies, right? But petroleum is a crude oil product which also happens to be used in gasoline, diesel fuel, asphalt, and tar. So when you think about it, the same thing that's on the road that you're driving with, and the same thing that powers your car, is the same thing that you're eating when you're eating foods that are colored by these colors. And it doesn't just stop at foods either, right? It goes into the pharmaceutical industries as well, because they use a lot of these different colors to color their pills. Right? Vaseline, there it is right there. All right. Petroleum jelly is a byproduct of the oil refining process. This means it is not sustainable or eco-friendly, and it also explains some of the potential problems with using it. Petroleum jelly was originally found in the bottom of oil rigs and is further refined for use in the beauty industry. Right? On labels, it may also appear as petroleum, mineral oil, liquid paraffin, or paraffin oil. Found in the bottom of oil rigs. Right? Basically what Vaseline does, what petroleum jelly does, it pretty much puts a protective layer over your body. That's true. But it doesn't allow your skin to breathe. It doesn't allow any toxins to leave your body. How do we get rid of our toxins? Through our pores, through sweat. Right? So it shields all of that in. So you're basically fermenting with all these different diseases and toxins inside your body. You're keeping them in. Right?
So, Sean, I would give some, the background on that, because we were talking recently, and I was telling them we need to talk about this, because a few weeks ago in Jersey, I'm reading for Deacon Aaron, and after the Shabbat class, we're eating and everything, and I don't know whose child it was, but she had a bottle of Vaseline, and it was, to my recollection, it was empty. But that was all I needed to know, that people in the body are still using this stuff. Like, I haven't actually seen Vaseline in my presence since the 90s. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen this. So, like Sean said, it's preventing your skin from breathing, from releasing toxins and waste. By a show of hands, how many people in here understand the lymphatic system at all? Okay, so you understand that it is the headquarters of your immune system. It runs parallel with your vascular system. So the job of the lymphatic system is to remove toxins from your body. You have lymph nodes all throughout your body. You have them in your breast, whether you're a man or a woman. And a lot of times when it comes to breast cancer, that's typically the issue when it comes to females, is their lymphatic systems are either irritated by way of radiation, or they're clogged by way of toxins. So you want to have regular cleansing of the lymphatic system. But if you're using something like Vaseline, that's going into your lymphatic system. You're actually jamming it up. So this is one of the last things you ever want to be putting on your body. If you cannot eat it and digest it, it should not be on your skin, because your skin, which is the epidermis, is your largest organ. You should be protecting it at all costs. When they market Vaseline, it's cheap, and they market it. I mean, we all grew up in the hood. We were all using it at some point. They're attacking our melanin. They're attacking our immune system. So, again, you got plenty of options. I think Sean has some alternatives at the next slide, but you can finish on that. I'll touch on something else after that.
Another one of the things that Vaseline is responsible for is collagen breakdown. right? It's one of the things that people want to avoid. They want to avoid the aging process. They want to look young, look fresh, but the Vaseline, it blocks the skin's ability to heal itself. So you're actually creating those wrinkles by using this stuff. Right? And another thing that's really important is estrogen dominance. And it's a growing problem in today's world. The estrogen dominance is when the body has high levels of estrogen and proportionately low levels of progesterone to balance it. And it is linked to infertility, menstrual problems, accelerated aging, allergies, and autoimmune problems, as well as nutrient deficiencies, sleep problems, and even some types of cancers. Right? Many products, including petroleum jelly, contain chemicals called xenoestrogens, which may increase estrogen problems in the body. And studies have shown that these chemicals may act on hormone receptors in the body and lead to estrogen dominance. So we look at our culture and we look at a lot of the men that are feminized, right? And we wonder how all of this estrogen and all of this femininity is running rampant. Right? A lot of times, I remember getting slathered up with this stuff when I was a child, right? Unknowingly, right? But now that we start to get that understanding, we have to start going a different route. So some alternatives for Vaseline, and they're really good benefits as well, because Vaseline, when you put it on your body, it doesn't do anything. It just sits there, right? Shea butter is all natural and is a superfood that helps nourish the skin with vitamin A and E, right, as well as essential fatty acids. This means that using shea butter will not only moisture, but it will help reduce the appearance of scars, as well as minimize wrinkling. The essential fatty acids will also lessen skin inflammation and increase collagen production, right? So it basically does the opposite of what Vaseline does, but it also absorbs into your skin and it gives you vitamins and nutrients that you need as well, right? Cocoa butter is also a great source of antioxidants and beneficial fatty acids. It also contains beneficial plant-based saturated fats, which are especially useful for healing dry, cracked skin. Cocoa butter is an emollient, so it adds a protective layer of hydration whenever you use it, right? How many people had the cocoa butter sticks, use them on the lips, right, to keep your lips from chapping, right? It can help block the side effects of very cold temperatures, sun damage, or indoor heat, which can leave your lips and skin excessively dry. So all of these is just laying down the groundwork of how they actually market or speak or think about food, right? So we're going to get into what's actually in the food that's going against the commands of the Most High, right? Go ahead.
What are the Hold on. Oh, okay. I thought you were... This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 21 to 23. Verse 21. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind.
Now that word beetle there is not actually beetle, right? When you look into the Strongs, it's Hebrew, it's H2728, and the word there is shargal, right? When you look at other translations, that word beetle is not there, right? Go to, you got Jasher? Just to show you that shargal is actually a kind of locust, a leaping creature. So it's the same kind, right? It's not something that's totally different. So it's not an actual beetle. So it's not saying that it's okay for us to eat beetles, because that will go against the word, right? And the other translation reads, even these of them you may eat, the locust after his kind, the bald locust after his kind, and the cricket after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind, right? And that's from the JPS Tanakh. But you got Jasher. Thank you, Deacon Shimon, for showing me this precept in Jasher. So we're going to be at Jasher chapter 80, verse 33.
This is the book of Jasher, chapter 80, verse 33. And the Lord sent and brought numerous locusts into Egypt, the chassel, Salom, Chargol, and Chargoli.
Right, say that again.
Chargoli.
Right, so he brought many kinds of locusts, right? And he goes through, Chargol was one of those types of locusts. And the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because there's a particular pesky critter that's inside a lot of our foods. Anybody ever hear of cochineal? Okay, we got a couple hands up. All right. So we're going to get into what cochineal is. And it's actually a beetle, right? Come on.
The cochineal is a scale insect in the suborder Sternoihinca, from which the natural dye carmine is derived.
So that's what they actually produce. They produce carmine. So you'll see carmine or cochineal extract, carminic acid. These are all derived from the cochineal. All right? Come on.
A primary sessile parasite native to tropical and subtropical South America, as well as Mexico and Arizona. This insect lives on cacti in the genus Apuntia, feeding on plant moisture and nutrients. These insects are found on the pads of prickly pear cacti, then are brushed off and dried. The insect produces carminic acid that deters predation by other insects. Carminic acid, typically 17 to 24% of dried insects' weight, can be extracted from the body in eggs, then mixed with aluminum or calcium salts to make carmine dye, also known as cochineal. Today, carmine is primarily used as a colorant in food and in lipstick.
Right, so it's a food coloring, right? And it's found in lipstick, it's found in pharmaceutical application in your gel caps. It's anything that's colored red, more than likely is either cochineal or is red 40. And they are two separate things. Red 40 comes from petroleum. It's petroleum based, right? So it's a different animal. Cochineal, this is how they get away with putting natural flavor, right? Because this is something that's natural, so they extract it from that. So therefore, if you see something that's red on your package and it says natural flavoring, 9 times out of 10, it's from the cochineal. All right, come on.
Cochineal is one of the few water-soluble colorants to resist degradation with time. It is one of the most light and heat stable and oxidation resistant of all the natural organic colorants, and is even more stable than many synthetic food colors. The water-soluble form is used in alcoholic drinks with calcium carmine. The insoluble form is used in a wide variety of products. Together with ammonium carmine, they can be found in meat, sausages, processed poultry products. Meat products cannot be colored in the United States unless they are labeled as such.
Now, they just changed that regulation that they had to be labeled as such. But what happens is that the manufacturers actually have time till their original supply is run out. Then they have to comply with the new regulations to now start to put them on the label. So if a manufacturer has, years and years worth of supply, well, as far as the packaging goes, they can ride this out, and they can still have your packaging say natural flavoring and not have to put it on the label. And when you look at the meats and the sausages and the foods, right, think how bright and red these meats are looking that are packaged in the supermarket, right? It's all about presentation. When you cut into an animal, that meat is not that bright, it's not that vibrant, it's not that red. So these colorings are there to entice you, to make it seem more appealing to you. All right?
Surimi, marinades, alcoholic drinks, bakery products and toppings, cookies, desserts, icings, pie fillings, jams, preserves, gelatin desserts, fruit beverages, varieties of cheddar cheese and other dairy products, sauces, and sweets.
So we have to be very diligent when we're buying these ingredients. We have to start looking, start checking the labeling, because a lot of times these things are just sitting in there and we don't know what they mean. We don't really read into it too much. I myself have fell victim as well, because if there's something that I have this principle. If it's something on the back of a label that I can't read or can't pronounce, then I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to put it in my body, right? And I had to come to that realization, because as I'm looking on the back of a food package, I'm seeing things with, crazy names that just have that I've never heard of before. Right?
Like some of the ingredients, they start with an X and end with a Y.
Right.
It's something that's just completely out of nature.
But the cochineal, the carminic acid and the carmine, it's produced and used in the cosmetic industry for hair and skin care products. Lipstick, your face powders, your rose, your blushes, right? A bright red dye, and the stain carmine used in the microbiology is often made from the carmine extract too. The pharmaceutical industry, like we spoke about, it uses that as well to color the different pills, right? So these things are out there, and one of the things that carminic acid or carmine does to your body is it causes a lot of allergic reactions, a lot of things that go on with your nose. All right, go ahead and read that.
In spite of the widespread use of carmine-based dyes found in foods and cosmetic products, a small number of people have been found to experience occupational asthma, food and cosmetic allergies, such as allergic rhinitis, enteritis, IgE-mediated respiratory hypersensitivity, and in rare cases, anaphylactic shock.
Right, that allergic rhinitis is just when you have an allergic reaction when you breathe in something. Right, so you don't have to ingest it, you can just breathe it in and you'll have an allergic reaction to it.
In 2009, the FDA ruled that labels of cosmetics and food that include cochineal extract must include that information on their labels under the name cochineal extract or carmine.
Right, so now that they are stipulated they have to put this on the labels, this is something that we definitely need to look out for that's out there, especially if you're eating anything that's red. But one of the things you want to do to just completely avoid that is look for an alternative. Right? The alternative is not to deal with it at all. Right? And if you want something colored red, you can do hibiscus flowers steeped in hot water until they cool, boiled cranberries, red beet juice, red beet powder, pomegranate juice. You know that these things have red colors because that's how they're formed in nature, right? So you don't have to worry about where that actual color is coming from. All right. Karyalaka. What is Karyalaka? Anybody ever heard of Karyalaka? There's a clue as to what it is inside the last name of it. It's more commonly known as the lac bug. All right, so go ahead.
Karyalaka. Karyalaka is a species of insects in the family Caryidae, the lac insects. These are in the superfamily Cocoidea, the scale insects. This species is perhaps the most commercially important lac insect, being a main source of lac, a resin which can be refined into shellac and other products.
All right, so how many people heard of shellac? Right, you put it on wood, you put it on furniture, varnish, right? So it's made from the shellac itself. Hold on one second. Is made from combining a secretion from the female lac bug with a solvent used as alcohol. And it's very safe once it's dried and hardened. In addition to adding a protective coat, it can add a warm amber color to wood. It can be affected by heat, right? So the kitchen table might not be the best place to put the shellac. But again, this is what it actually looks like, right? It's a secretion from the bug itself. And some sisters may actually, I don't know if any sisters get their nails done, but shellac, they're now offering shellac nails, right? It went from acrylic, right, to gel, right? But the gel had the pigment, the pigs and whatnot in it. So now it actually went into shellac, right? So you can now get shellac manicures because of that glossy feel that it has to it.
So now that we know, y'all gotta stop shellacking. Right?
Come on.
Shellac is scraped from the bark of trees where the female lac bug, Caryolaca, secretes it to form a tunnel-like tube as it traverses the branches of the tree. Though these tunnels are sometimes referred to as cocoons, they are not literally cocoons in the entomological sense. This insect is in the same superfamily as the insect from which the cochineal is obtained. The insects suck the sap of the tree and excrete sticklac almost constantly. The least colored shellac is produced when the insects feed on the kasum tree.
So where are they possibly using this in food, right? I understand that you shellac a wood, right? But where are they using this in food? So it's called shellac edible, right? And if anyone has ever had fruit, they use shellac to wax your fruit. All right, every one of your fruit has that shellac coating on it, right?
Shellac edible is used as a glazing agent on pills, see excipient, and sweets in the form of pharmaceutical glaze or confectioner's glaze. Because of its acidic properties, resisting stomach acids, shellac-coated pills may be used for the time enteric or colonic release.
So if you go to your doctor and he gives you these shiny pills or these gel caps, they may not be gel caps, they may be shellac, right? For that very property of that time release. All right, come on.
Shellac is used as a wax coating on citrus fruit to prolong its shelf life, storage life. It is also used to replace the natural wax of the apple, which is removed during the cleaning process when used for its purpose. When used for this purpose, it has the food additive E number E904.
So shellac is also known as confectioner's glaze, right? The name often used for shellac by candy makers, right? And it's composed of approximately 35% shellac. The rest are volatile organic compounds which evaporate off during manufacture in foods. Right? Shellac is most commonly used as a coating or glaze on confections, chewing gum, fruit, coffee beans. Right? Lac dye, like carmine, may be used as a coloring in foods and beverages. which candies are coated with shellac. Any hard-coated, shiny candy contains a shellac coating or glaze, right? M&Ms, Jolly Ranchers, they all contain this glaze, right? Right, you got Hershey's, Whoppers, the Milk Duds, you got Raisinets, Goobers, Tootsie Rolls, Junior Mints, Sugar Babies, Jelly Beans, all these things that they pitched to us when we were children, right? Going to the movies, you go to the dollar store, grab you some candy, throw it in the bag, 'cause it's a little expensive in the theater. Chocolate almond bars, dark chocolate cherries, milk chocolate cashews. I mean, the list goes on and on. And one of the things you have to look out for, which shellac that can be harmful, is the ethanol, the isopropanol, methanol, and the methyl isobutyl ketone, right? And these things, they affect you when you inhale them. If you ever had someone removing their nail polish, right, with acetone, that smell alone, right, will run me out of my own house, right?
Hey, Sean.
Con, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because these are chemicals that in my profession, since I've been like 21, I've been working with these chemicals in laboratories. And this is in the chemical field. I'm in the bio field now. But in the chem field, you're going to come across these chemicals a lot. Now, methyl isobutyl ketone, that's abbreviated. You typically abbreviate that MEK. And all of these chemicals, when you're using them in the laboratory, they tell you to wear gloves. Because one of the things that you're going to notice is if you get it on your skin, it's not going to kill you, but it's going to dry your skin out. You're going to turn ashy quick, even if you're an Edomite. It's going to turn you ashy quick. Like you could just see it. And the thing is your skin absorbs it really fast, faster than your skin would absorb water. All of these chemicals that's on this list, your skin absorbs it faster than it absorbs water, and it dries you out from the inside out. So when you think about how they're putting this stuff in our food, this morning when I was going over this, when I was reading the slides, I'm just thinking about how dehydrated we are. Just in general. I'm not necessarily talking about just Israel. I'm talking about people in general. People are just dehydrated nowadays. We're not taking in enough water. And on top of it, we have these chemicals entering our bodies that, I mean, Brother Sean said if you smell it, you have like some kind of adverse effect. But we're also ingesting them, and we're breaking them down and bringing them back into their liquid form, and they're still drying us out from the inside out. So this is really like stressing the importance of regular hydration, because really we should be drinking like a gallon of water a day. I didn't necessarily believe that at the time, but I do now, because we are, as across the board, just nationwide, whether you're Jew, Hebrews, or Gentiles alike, we're all dehydrated because of stuff like this.
Now, the alternative or solution for removing that wax from your fruit, and I'm only giving you an alternative for the fruit because we shouldn't be eating a lot of these candies and artificial sweeteners anyway. But, you dip the apple in hot water for a few seconds to remove the wax. Once you take out the apple from the hot water, wash it under the running tap water, right? Or if you have another source of water, if you don't want to use the tap water, if you're worried about those chemicals seeping in, then use another separate water source, right? Another method is to mix 1 tablespoon of lemon juice and 1 tablespoon of baking soda in water. Dip each apple in the mixture and scrub it using a vegetable brush. Rinse them under tap water once you are done, right? You can also use vinegar instead of lemon juice. Mixed in water, scrub the apples and rinse. Apple cider vinegar is also a good method. Another method, if you just want to skip the whole thing, is to remove the skin. But when you do that, the fiber, you lose out on all the nutrients, especially the fiber, which is in the apple skin, right? But you want to remember to wash the apples with clean water several times before you finally consume them.
It's unbelievable that the Most High already has the apple with wax on it. You got to go through all of this because they take it off and put wax from an animal that he told us not to eat. This is how you know it's deliberate. Because the Most High already waxed the fruit in the first place.
Castoreum. It's our next ingredient on the map, and I just want to apologize now because there may be some strong images on here. Anyone know what castoreum is? All right, I see one hand back there. Castoreum.
Castoreum. Castoreum is the exudate from the castor sacs of the mature North American beaver, Castor canadensis, and a European beaver, Castor fiber. Castoreum is the yellowish secretion of that castor sac. Beavers use castoreum in combination with urine to scent mark territory. Both beaver sexes have a pair of castor sacs and a pair of anal glands located in two cavities under the skin between the pelvis and the base of the tail. The castor sacs are not true glands, endocrine or exocrine, on a cellular level. Hence, references to these structures as prepudial glands, castor glands, or scent glands are misnomers. It is used as a tincture in some perfumes and as a food additive.
Now, if you have ever had something that was vanilla flavored, that didn't come from natural vanilla or whole vanilla bean, 9 times out of 10, you had castoreum. Go ahead.
Castoreum. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration lists castoreum extract as a generally recognized as safe or GRAS food additive. In 1965, the Flavor of Extract Manufacturers Association, GRAS program, added castoreum extract and castoreum liquid. Product ingredient lists often refer to it simply as natural flavoring. While it is mainly used in foods and beverages as part of a substitute vanilla flavor, it is less commonly used as a part of a raspberry or strawberry flavor.
So it can be used as raspberry or strawberry flavor as well, but it's mainly used for vanilla flavor. All right.
The annual industry consumption is very low, around 300 pounds, where vanilla is over 2.6 million pounds annually.
Now that might be comforting that consumption is very low, but there's something very interesting, right? As it happens, there is no up-to-date consumer list of specific foods containing castoreum, and it does not exist, right? Why is that? But would you buy a food product if you knew that it came from the secretion of a beaver? Right? So a lot of times, what happens is, one second. No food manufacturer will divulge this information, and they're not legally obligated to do that. They're only legally obligated to put on their package a natural flavoring, right? They don't have to list what actually goes in to that ingredient, right? But if you see something that's vanilla flavored, natural flavoring, castoreum. Briars, right? Now it's interesting about Briar's ice cream. It's very interesting because before Briar started to use castoreum, they were using milk that came from artificial growth hormones. They were using milk from cows that had the artificial growth hormone. But they made an announcement and they switched it, and a lot of their constituents followed suit, right? Come on.
Castoreum. Castoreum helps scent cigarettes and incense, and it's used to enhance the flavor of alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages, baked goods, gelatins, puddings, soft and hard candies, frozen dairy products, and chewing gum.
Right? Read the notes on that. Read the notes on that. I want to show you guys something.
Bovine somatotropin is a protein hormone naturally produced in the pituitary gland of cows.
So that protein was naturally produced in cows. But here's what happened. Go ahead.
Monsanto and other companies developed a recombinant version by using a genetically engineered E. coli bacteria, according to the Organic Valley. The hormone has been banned in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Israel, and the European Union.
Right, so that particular, it was banned all over. But United States, America, Babylon is the capital, we hold out strong.
Hey, Sean.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, if it's banned in Israel, where they live, stay away from it. They got kosher pork over there. So another thing I want to say is, I done said this, this is probably about the 7th time I done said this since I've been associating with y'all. If you see it on TV, do not buy it. Do not buy it. It's the best way to reduce your percentage of defilement. If you see it on TV, I don't even watch TV. I really don't. But if you have a TV in your house, you see it on TV, do not buy it. Don't let your adversary tell you how to eat. It's strategic. Don't let them tell you how to eat. Go ahead, brother.
So Breyer's parent company, Unavailer, they plan to have other brands including Fruitaire, Good Humor, Klondike, Magnum, and Popsicle follow suit in the next few years. And this is directly from their spokeswoman. It says this initiative will make the conglomerate the largest ice cream manufacturer in the world to source hormone-free milk and sustainable vanilla. So warning about Castoreum and what it does. And one of the reasons why they use it in perfume, it has been used as the ultimate leather scent. It evokes like, it contributes an erotic, spicy, ambery note to perfumes, and it provides like a fixation. You be fixated. You ever see that? You ever go to see a new car? It's got that brand new leather in it. Like, oh man, look at that leather. That's beautiful, right? It's just something that they spray on there to evoke that type of response, right? Come on.
Castoreum is also used as a method to induce desirable pheromone responses in the brain.
Right, and this is interesting. I was looking into this, and go ahead.
Though not currently used in any form of Western medicine, Castoreum has been used for centuries to treat the symptoms of many illnesses. Some ancient Romans believed that by simply inhaling the fumes given off by Castoreum, abortion could be induced.
Right, so, and it goes on and on. There was a gentleman called Pericles, thought that Castoreum could be used in the treatment of epilepsy. Medieval beekeepers use it to increase honey production. The Native American, they recommended that the scent sacks be boiled and applied as a poultice to wounds to stanch bleeding and prevent infection. Right? The Yupik in Alaska used the dried beaver sacks as a pain reliever in addition to chewing on willow's bark itself. Right? So this has been used as for medicinal purposes, but when you start to ingest things that we have no business ingesting, it causes ramifications in our temple. So one of the things we can do to alleviate that is find different alternatives. And there are only 4 main commercial preparations of natural vanilla, and they're the whole pod, powder, the extract or vanilla sugar. And interestingly enough about vanilla extract is a funny story. Vanilla extract is in 35% alcohol. That's the same percentage of alcohol that's in vodka, rum, right? But they're not regulated like the food and drug, like the alcohol and tobacco. What happened was, it's a quick story, real quick. Flavor and Extracts Manufacturers Association. Their acronym is FEMA. It's not the FEMA that we know today. It's the Flavor and Extract Manufacturers Association, founded in 1909. Right? What happened was they spent much of their early years showering state and federal legislations with thousands of letters arguing that unless the alcohol used in flavor extracts were exempt from the looming prohibition, their industry and thus food industry would suffer. Right? So during prohibition, the food lobbyists, they were saying that our business is going to be crippled if you don't allow us to use alcohol untaxed. So that was how they were able to still use alcohol. So you can actually get drunk off of vanilla extract. All right. So we're going to go into something called cysteine. Anybody ever heard of cysteine? Okay. Come on. So let's see what cysteine is. Come on up.
Cysteine, mainly the N-enantiomer, is a precursor in the food, pharmaceutical, and personal care industries.
So we're going to be talking about the L-cysteine, right? Because there's the different variations.
One of the largest applications is a production of flavors. For example, the reaction of cysteine with sugars in a Maillard reaction yields meat flavors. L-cysteine is also used as a processing aid for baking. In the field of personal care, cysteine is used for permanent wave applications, predominantly in Asia. Again, the cysteine is used for breaking up the disulfide bonds in the hair's keratin. In a 1994 report released by 5 top cigarette companies, cysteine is one of the 599 additives to cigarettes.
Now, what could they possibly be using cysteine? How can they possibly use that in the food? All right. So the majority of L-cysteine is obtained industrially by hydrolysis of animal materials such as poultry feathers or hog hair, right? They have a synthetic version produced which is compliant with Jewish kosher and Muslim halal laws. Right, so what's going on with the L-cysteine? They're harvesting it from duck and pig hair. Duck feathers, pig hair, hog hair. And they use it in your bread as a dough softener. And they don't have to list it as an ingredient because it's on the manufacturer's end.
Cysteine, while some L-cysteine is directly synthesized in laboratories, most of it is extracted from a cheap and abundant natural protein source, human hair. The hair is dissolved in acid, and L-cysteine is isolated through a chemical process, then packaged and shipped off to commercial bread producers. Besides human hair, other sources of L-cysteine include chicken feathers, duck feathers, cow horns, and petroleum byproducts.
Right, so it wasn't enough just to use duck feathers and hog hair. They started to cut corners because they found other cheaper resources, and they'll always look to cut corners to make the most out of the profits, because food is not about nutrition anymore. It's about making a profit. It's no longer about food, it's a product. Right?
Okay, I want to. So, when Sean brought to my attention that he was going to go into this, I have a presentation that I'm putting together right now, and I'm going to be talking a lot about amino acids. I'm going to be explaining exactly what protein is, why the word protein is a deception in itself. Now, cysteine is a amino acid, and I brought information from my presentation just to put in front of me. But cysteine is actually a amino acid that your body produces naturally. And I'll read off the main functions of it so you can get a gist of what it does in your body, because it's actually a good thing before they get to it. So I'll read it as follows. Cysteine and cysteine are interconvertible. Two molecules of cysteine make cysteine. It is an antioxidant. It is protective against radiation, pollution, ultraviolet light, and other causes of increased free radical production. It is a natural detoxifier. It is essential in growth, maintenance, and repair of skin. It is a key ingredient in the hair. One of the three main sulfur-containing amino acids, along with taurine and methionine. Taurine and methionine are other amino acids that I'll go into more depth in my presentation. But it works hand in hand with cysteine. It's also a major constituent of glutathione, an important tripeptide made of cysteine, glutamic acid, and glycine. It is the precursor to the amino acid taurine. It is also the precursor to chondroitin sulfate, which is the main component of cartilage development. Now, if you're deficient in cysteine or cysteine, you will expect to have your primary symptoms that you would expect to see is chemical sensitivity and food allergy. Now, I've been thinking a lot about food allergies because I myself have been lactose intolerant that I know of since I was like 20. And before that, I was able to ingest dairy perfectly fine. And one day, everything just changed. So now I just stay away from all dairy products to the best of my ability, unless I have like wine that helps me digest it. But recently, Deacon Shamal posted a video in the GroupMe chat, and he was bringing out, it was a video about the Fulani tribe, it's a Fulani tribe out in Africa. And it's talking about how these people practically depend on cows to survive. They herd them, and most of their diet is in the form of either milk or cheese. And I'm watching this video, and I couldn't help but notice that these people have no ill effects. Like they're not overweight. Like what you would hear typically from people over here in the Western world by eating dairy products is that it makes you overweight, you have lactose intolerant, gastrointestinal issues. But these people who completely depend on the cow for their survival, as far as economically, nutritionally, and so forth, they have no adverse effects. So I'm realizing, not just from that video, but other areas of my research, is that when it comes to food allergies, that I'm not believing that it's the dairy anymore. I'm believing that it's what's being done to the animal itself. Because those people over there in Africa, they have real cows. We don't have real cows over here. Our cows have been damaged. Their milk is not pure. Another point that I wanted to bring out regarding this amino acid is that it says that cysteine is a key ingredient in hair. I was just talking to a brother yesterday, and he cut his hair. He shaved it low. His hair was high. He shaved it low. And it caught me off guard because at first I didn't recognize the brother. I'm like, bro, why you cut your hair? And he's like, I'm going bald in certain areas. He's like, baldness is kind of like hereditary in my family. I said, no, it's not. It's not. I had told somebody else this a while ago that baldness in men and women, because women do go bald too, is a result of a deficiency in amino acids and a deficiency in minerals. That's actually something that is on my list of things to do. So hopefully down the line I'll get some good reports from that, something I'm working on. But yeah, that's basically what it is. They're not actually going to tell you that it's that simple, that you need to incorporate certain amino acids and certain minerals such as silica and other minerals into your diet to bring back your hair or strengthen your hair. But in due time, stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some positive results in that area.
So here's the thing. It's not listed as an ingredient on the bread products that contain it. So you actually have to go to the manufacturers to see if they list it. They'll have to list it on the manufacturer's end as the ingredient, as incorporated as a bread softener. But on the packaging itself, it will not be listed. But know that if you buy any type of commercialized bread, then it's going to have L-cysteine in it, because bread, when you bake or when you bake your own bread tends to go bad quickly, right? You leave bread out, it'll be hard as a rock in a couple days. Bread from the supermarket can leave like weeks, and you hardly see any mold, right? So, and it's still soft, and it's like, what's going on here? It's because of that L-cysteine that's been placed inside of the actual product. And it says that L-cysteine is permitted for use in Canada in bread flour and whole wheat flour to a maximum level of 90 ppms. It is also allowed in unstandardized bakery products at levels that follow good manufacturing practice. Right? L-cysteine may cause some unwanted side effects such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation. Allergic reactions may also occur, and symptoms may include rashes, fever, headaches, low blood pressure, headache, and drowsiness. And then they threw in this: there is currently no link to harm or fetus or mother when pregnant. Right? And I always, anytime I see there's no link, they try to separate themselves because there was an issue that they had where there was a connection, right? So usually when you see something like this, it's because there was some type of connection where there was a link. They studied it, they try to recreate it in the lab, and for some reason they're finding that there's no link, right? But that's neither here or there, right? Alternative, we bake our own bread. Stop buying from these other nations. Stop buying stuff that we don't understand what's going into it. Let's become self-sufficient, because a lot of being self-sufficient will alleviate a lot of these problems, right? We still, in one sense, we still lean on the other nations for food. Right? We still go to the supermarkets, we still shop. We're not producing our own, so we're subject to a lot of these things if we're not diligent.
Hey, Sean. I just want to say, because this is exactly what I'm going to be concluding talking about. Probably the last 15 slides is going to be about bread, because we see from point A all the way to Z in the scriptures. The Bible's talking about bread all through it. Whether it's literal or symbolic, it's talking about bread all through the book. Our ancestors would literally come together to eat bread. I believe that's Matthew 15, where the disciples got upset with Christ. The Pharisees got upset with Christ because his disciples didn't wash hands before they was going to eat bread. Now, to put it in perspective of the type of bread that our ancestors were eating compared to the type of bread that we eat today, if a brother called a bunch of us on the phone, come on, we're going to have some food and everything, going to have some wine on the table, and it's probably about 10, 15 of us. We go over there. We don't necessarily live that close to each other, so it's like we got to travel to get to this brother's house. And we get to his house, and he just got bread on the table that he got from Whole Foods or something with some butter. You know, some brothers that's probably hungry, they going to have to put on Christ at that moment, because they going to be like, I know this brother did not call me over here just to eat some bread. You're going to have to put Christ on. Okay, it's more so about the association, this and that and the other. You're going to think of the more important thing. We're going to go into some scripture soon. But at first glance, you thinking it's going to be some goat, some fish or something. You're going to feast, because the brother said we're going to have some food. Our ancestors came together just to eat bread. So what I'm going to be going into is we got to start making our own bread. But it's one thing to just make bread, but it's another thing to make bread that you can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and not need anything else. Your bread is supposed to be your medicine. So I'm going to go into the type of grains, the type of wheat. I'm going to explain the type of wheat that their bread is being made with, that you get at these stores. Because what you're going to find is their wheat, I'll just tell you now, it's called durum wheat. That's one of the most popular types of wheats that you're going to find in the breads that you pick up from the store. Durum wheat has 6 genomes, whereas original wheats like kamut or spelt or rye, they have 2 genomes. By a show of hands, how many people in here only have 2 parents? Everybody's hands should go up. You only got 2 parents. Now, this wheat has 6. Now, what I want to actually, it's like there's something weird going on with the spirit that we're dealing with in this world. Because nowadays, children can actually be born technically with 3 parents, because they have an issue where the woman has damaged egg cells. The mitochondria isn't functioning properly. So what they'll do is they'll get another woman, take her mitochondria, insert it into this woman, and then have the father come in and fertilize it. So technically that child has 3 parents that brought it into the world. So we see it's really a spiritual thing going on. But going back to the bread, I'm going to talk about how we're going to make this bread, how it's going to be filling to you, so that when times get rough, you can start purchasing these grains and these wheats now and start just the flour. Or if you have a way of making your flour, if you don't have a way to get your food, you can at least survive off of bread and water. You can at least have your nutrition, because these original grains and these original wheats, you know, when Abraham sent the Egyptian maid off, he gave her bread. You know, you can live off that stuff if you make it the right way. So go ahead, brother.
Con. It all goes back to just, we have to start being separate, being holy, and really taking it to heart that this is our temple, and we can't defile it with anything that's going to compromise our physicality. Because when you compromise your physicality, you may not be compromising your spirituality, but if you're physically weak, it'll start to drip into your mental, right? It'll start to stress you out. It's like, oh man, I just tried to, push this lawnmower and I'm winded already, right? I just went up like 2 flights of stairs and I can't catch my breath. Like, what's going on, right? These things start to weigh on your mental. So you have to have that balance, that spiritual, physical, and that mental. It all has to be in balance. we're going to talk about carrageenan and what that is. And it's funny because this was actually, carrageenan is actually an alternative to gelatin, right? But you're going to find out that there's some issues with carrageenan itself.
Carrageenan. Carrageenan are a family of linear sulfated polysaccharides that are extracted from red edible seaweeds. They are widely used in the food industry for their gelling, thickening, and stabilizing properties. Main applications is in dairy and meat products due to their strong binding to food proteins. Gelatinous extracts of the Chondrus crispus, Irish moss, seaweed have been used as food additives since approximately the 15th century. Carrageenan is a vegetarian and vegan alternative to gelatin in some applications, or may be used to replace gelatin in confectionery.
So, like I said, it was a replacement, something you can use in place of using gelatin, right? And we're going to see that a lot of foods actually contain carrageenan. And if you remember those little milk boxes, little hood milk boxes, when you were younger as a child, they go to school, you get those little school milks. Every one of them contain carrageenan. You're going to find out that on the surface, carrageenan is fine, but when it comes in contact with your stomach acids, it becomes a carcinogen, right? Go ahead.
Carrageenan. Which foods commonly contain carrageenan? Dairy, whipped cream, chocolate milk, ice cream, sour cream, cottage cheese, squeezable yogurt, marketed to children, dairy alternatives. Soy milk, almond milk, hemp milk, coconut milk, soy desserts, soy puddings. As for meats, sliced turkey, prepared chicken, nutritional drink.
And I've seen this on the meat packages, right? Because what it does, it keeps, it's a binding agent, so it keeps it together, so it doesn't just, fall all over the place.
Nutritional drinks. Examples include Ensure, Slim Fast, Carnation Breakfast Essentials, in Orgain. Prepared foods, canned soup, broth, microwavable dinners, frozen pizza. Supplements include chewable vitamins.
Right. So in the past decade, researchers have successfully identified several ways in which food-grade carrageenan causes harm. The chemical structure of carrageenan, unique chemical bonds not found in other seaweed or gums, affect the body in several ways. Most notably, it triggers an immune reaction which leads to inflammation in the gastrointestinal system. Prolonged inflammation is a precursor to more serious diseases, including cancer, right? So it becomes a carcinogen when it's exposed to your stomach acid, right? And it was supposed to serve as a replacement for the gelatin. Products with carrageenan may be labeled as natural, but limited studies show that carrageenan may promote or cause inflammation, bloating, irritable bowel syndrome, glucose intolerance, colon cancer, food allergies. Right? Increased inflammation can lead to greater likelihood of other diseases such as inflammatory bowel disease, arthritis, tendinitis, chronic cystitis, or gallbladder inflammation. Now, it's interesting that the Food and Drug Administration still approves this ingredient, but in 2016, the National Organic Standards Board voted to remove carrageenan from their approved list. This means that food made with carrageenan can no longer be labeled USDA organic.
This is like going right back to what I was saying about the food allergies, because I really don't believe that it's simply a dairy issue anymore. It's like they're doing things to these animals, and they're putting these additives in our food that don't belong there, and they're blaming it on the animal to get us into their pharmaceutical vortex, I guess.
Right, so all of these different ailments can be attributed to lactose intolerance, right? But being that they're including this in the milk, you may associate it with the milk itself, when it's actually the added substance. Right? So an alternative for carrageenan is agar. Agar is also a bright red seaweed, but is a gelling agent sourced from algae. It is very useful as a replacement, using the same quantities for gelatin and vegan jellies, custards, and desserts. It doesn't require refrigeration to set, and sets in about an hour at room temperature. Agar can be boiled and can even be melted again if necessary. Now, the health benefits of agar are numerous. It is a good source of calcium, iron, is rich in iodine and trace minerals. It is very high in fiber and therefore aids in digestion, and acts as a mild laxative as it carries toxic waste out of the body. Agar is also known to reduce inflammation. Right? So if you've been ingesting a lot of carrageenan and you want to try to get that stuff out of your body, agar is a good source for that. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 2. Because it all comes down to being separate, being set apart. We have a commandment to be holy, right? Be ye holy as I am holy. The Most High gave us instruction as far as what's allowable to eat, what we should eat, what we should put in our temple, what we should put in our body. So we have to take heed to those instructions and start peeling back the layers of nonsense that we learn in our captivity, being separate. We have to start getting back to that relationship of food that we understood before our captivity. Not just settling for anything that tastes good, or anything that smells good, or anything that makes us feel fulfilled or satisfied, right?
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 2. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people.
A peculiar people. Like why those people only eat that? They don't want none of these pork chops? Why they only eat certain things, right? It's peculiar. Right?
Unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth. Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing.
Right? That's clear, cut, and dry. All praises to the Most High.